Hi, this is Joe again with another movie review, and to continue my review of the Star Wars films, I'm discussing the last film of the prequels, and it's also the last Star Wars film that was made, until of course when Episode 7 comes out in 2000, scheduled to come out in 2015, there's of course, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Of course, this is the movie that connects the prequels with the original trilogy. And of course, it also answers a lot of the questions that die-hard Star Wars fans want the answers to. Like, how does Anakin become Darth Vader? Why did he switch to the dark side? And the end of the Clone Wars, and how the Jedi ended up being killed. How the Emperor became the Emperor, and who was originally the Emperor, and how he became the Emperor, and how all that stuff came about. And of course, this is definitely the most violent of the Star Wars films, because it's like one big battle scene or fight scene after another, and very little things in between. Now, when we make very few just dialogue scenes to help bring the story along. Of course, this is also the movie where, like I said, where Anakin turns to the dark side, and the reason why he decides to turn is because, of course, at this point we know that Anakin and Padme got married at the end of Episode 2, and you find out that within after the big battle scene in the very beginning of the film, which takes like first 20-25 minutes of Episode 3, where the Chancellor, of course, didn't turn into the Emperor, officially turned into the Emperor yet. Spoiler. He got captured by the villain of Episode 3, which was General Grievous. And after Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin rescued the Chancellor to go back to Coruscant to give an update to the Senate about what happened. And of course, in the first 20 minutes, Christopher Lee's character, Count Dooku, gets killed by Anakin. After Anakin defeats him in a lightsaber duel, the Chancellor says to him, kill him. Order Anakin to kill him. And of course, he listened to what he said and chopped his head off. And of course, it gave a kind of hint, because it was Christopher Lee. After he heard Anakin getting the order from the Chancellor to kill him, he had a look at his face and said, "Hey, what's going on?" And I think at that point, Count Dooku realized that the Chancellor was Lord Darth Sidious. And of course, he didn't utter another word, and he was killed. And of course, when he comes back to Earth, Anakin finds out that Padme was pregnant. And of course, then he realized that he was having nightmares, the same type of dreams that he had about his mother in Episode 2, that Padme was going to die in childbirth. And the Chancellor says to him, the only way that you can maybe help save your wife is if you follow the dark side of the Force, because there was this Darth Plagueis who knew the secret to stop your loved one from dying. And that was the ploy, or the thing that that the Emperor uses, or Darth Sidious to use to control Anakin. Hey, if you want to be alive, you have to keep me alive. It means you have to protect me from the Jedi. When it comes down to that, because of course he saw, or foretold, that the Jedi were going to come after him. After when General Grievous gets killed and destroyed, the Jedi were going to come after him. So if you protect me, or keep me alive long enough, learn the secret. And that's how, the idea planted in Anakin's mind, because he was so in love with Padme that he wants to keep her alive and avoid her dying in during childbirth. Of course, with all that was going on, the Chancellor then asked Anakin to say, "Hey, why don't you be my eyes and ears to the Jedi Council?" So he told the council this. He said, "Look, the Chancellor wants to put me in the council to be his eyes and ears for the Senate." And Jedi Council was very hesitant to do this because they didn't like the fact that the Chancellor was to have a spy, because he put the Jedi to know what's going on, and nobody else would be like secret society type thing. And they didn't want any outsiders to know. They didn't want the Chancellor to know, and they're very suspicious of him. But he said, "Oh, okay, we reluctantly we put you on the council, but not as a master. Because usually when you're on the Jedi Council, you're already a Jedi Master already." But they didn't want to grant him the role of master. So why not? I mean, they trained hard for all these years to become a Jedi and killed Count Dooku. So I fought him in a duel, and I beat him and killed him. So why can't you do all this? And the reason why is because they didn't trust him. And of course, when the war was over, Grievous was destroyed by Obi-Wan Kenobi, and of course the head of the Separatists, who was really the Trade Federation guys. Again, they came up again in the third film, the Trade Federation guys, and they were put on this volcano planet. And of course, when Mace Windu, who was played by Samuel L. Jackson, goes to with about 3 other Jedi's to arrest the Chancellor, because now he has to give up. Once the war is over, he has to give back the powers, the emergency powers that the Senate gave him when the war started in the first place. And now the war is over. Now he has to give up the powers, and now of course he doesn't want to give up the powers because he wants to be in control of everything. So when he came to arrest him, of course he has this big lightsaber battle with, and killed all the other Jedi, and had this big battle with Mace Windu. After Yoda, he was like the second most powerful Jedi. And of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi is maybe like the third guy. And the rest of the most powerful Jedi's. And of course, and Anakin was told to stay in the Jedi Temple because he is too close to Chancellor. And of course, if what he said was true, because Anakin did tell Mace Windu that, and believe the Chancellor is a Sith Lord the Count Dooku told us about, or warned us about. It's okay, if you tell me what's true, then you have my... Mace Windu says to her, if this is what you're telling me is actually true, and when I find out if it's true, and then I would trust, then you will finally win my trust after all these years. I said, alright. But Anakin went anyway, because the Emperor was saying his messages telepathically to say, if I know the Jedi will come after me, if you want me to say Padme, you have to say me. So of course he goes over, kills, and Anakin does kill Mace Windu, and that's when he turns. Instead of leaving the name Anakin, and his name, because the Sith Lord said they had like the word Darth or Lord, whatever, to their names. So the Emperor, Palpatine gave Anakin the name Darth Vader. And at that moment he quit being Darth Vader, and he became quit being Anakin Skywalker, became Darth Vader after. And that moment. And of course, at that moment, that's when Yoda starts sensing that these Jedi's, that Mace Windu died, and that was killed, and that Anakin switched to the dark side. And of course, at that moment, he was told to go. The Chancellor told him, hey, go to the Jedi Temple and wipe out all the Jedi, because if there's any Jedi left are going to come after us and kill us. And of course, that's what he does. And that's what originally it was supposed to have that in the movie. And George Lucas took it out. But you did see the dead bodies of the kids, laying on after the attack. And then he had, and then after, of course, he did kill the children at the Jedi Temple. And he said to him, "Oh, go to the Mustafas, go to the volcano planet and wipe out the Separatist leaders," which is, of course, what he did. Which is, of course, a good thing because there were the villains throughout the 3 films and the 3 prequels, and they wanted to kill Padme in episode 2. So I guess in a way, Anakin got his revenge for their assassination attempts on Padme. So of course, when that's over, he stays on the volcano planet. For instead of coming back to Coruscant, he stays on the volcano planet. And then of course, he goes execute Order 66. And of course, after Anakin leaves, he told all these clones. Of course, we all know where the clones came from episode 2, and they were all actually clones of Jango Fett. And he said to him, and it was programmed for execute Order 66, which is of course to wipe out all the Jedi. Which is of course what happens. All the Jedi gets wiped out, except for Yoda and Obi-Wan. So they managed to be saved, or they happened to save themselves, and they went back to Coruscant, to the Jedi Temple there, and they found out that Anakin turned to the dark side. And Yoda gave orders to Obi-Wan to say, "Hey, you have to go and kill Anakin." He says, "I can't do it." He said, "I go after the Emperor, you go after Anakin." And Yoda says, "You're not strong enough to go after the Emperor. I'm strong enough. I go after the Emperor, you go after Anakin." He said, "Alright," and that's when you had the famous 2 duels at the same time, where Yoda was fighting. Again, you see Yoda fighting the Emperor, and it was a much better fight. It wasn't as comical as it was seeing Yoda fighting the Emperor as you did seeing Yoda fighting Count Dooku in episode 2. It wasn't as funny. Because it was more of a serious tone in this one, and we already got all the jokes out of it from the second episode 2. And so he, of course, the part of that fight, and Obi-Wan actually did kind of win his fight because he chopped off Anakin's legs, he chopped off his good arm, his left arm, and he ends up staying there and getting nearly burned to death from the volcano because the flames from the volcano came up and hit Anakin, and he was burning up. And of course, then you see Obi-Wan pick up his lightsaber, and that's the same lightsaber you see him giving it to Luke in the next movie, in episode 4. Which of course was the original one. And of course then they say Padme, because Padme went to the planet and she nearly got choked, and what he does, he goes like this, and he, with his power goes, without even holding her neck, she was stroking, she passed out. And of course, they took her to the hospital to a doctor, and he said, "Oh, she is dying. She lost the will to live, so she's dying." And they found out that she was carrying twins. Of course, we all know who the twins are. And that's Luke and Leia. Another big spoiler. And of course, she gives birth, and meanwhile, the Emperor does go to the volcano planet and saves. And found out that Anakin was still alive, and so they took him back, and you see Anakin put into the Darth Vader suit, and there is Hayden Christensen in the suit, not David Prowse. I don't know if David Prowse, who was originally in the suit for the original trilogy, if he was still alive, but Hayden Christensen says, "I want to be in the suit." And Yoda said, "Okay, be in the suit," and he was in the suit, and it was such a big event as they were filming that particular scene. And of course, Luke and Leia get born, and now they're going to decide what to do with these twins because we all know if the Emperor finds out, or Darth Vader finds out that the Padme lived long enough to give birth, that the twins the babies would be a threat to them, and that's when they got separated. Luke and Leia got separated, and Samuel Organa, who was played by Jimmy Smith from LA Law and NYPD Blue, says, "Okay, I take the girl." And okay, what do we do with the boy? So okay, the boy was put him with his uncle, who was introduced in episode 2, and to Uncle Owen. Okay, we put him with Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru on Tatooine. Of course, and it says to Obi-Wan, you stay on Tatooine and you observe you watch over the boy, because they feel that the boy will, be stronger than Leia was if they're old enough to go after the Emperor. So that's how the movie ended, with them being separated and being put on their adopted parents. So that's the end of the trilogy of the prequels, of episodes 1, 2, and 3. And of course, the next movie we're going to do is, of course, we're going to be doing the original. Eventually, we're going to be doing the original trilogy. So here's the end of episode 3. And of course, the lightsaber duel between Obi-Wan and Anakin was a much more powerful sequence than in the next one, in episode 4, which is not that much dramatic or drawn out as it was in this one. So please, that's my review of episode 3. Please like the video, comment on, subscribe to my page, and please share this video with your Facebook friends. Thank you for watching, and catch you next time with episode 4.